the crossroads most people never recognize. Some moments arrive without warning, disguised as ordinary days, carrying choices we don't yet realize will define us. Most people walk past these crossroads without ever seeing them. But one person encountered such a moment, and the direction they chose quietly reshaped the entire course of their working life. Careers rarely change through dramatic events. More often, they shift through subtle turning points. A question, a hesitation, a fleeting feeling that something no longer fits. In today's world, where paths are less linear and reinvention is increasingly common, recognizing these crossroads has become essential. They mark the difference between continuing on autopilot and stepping into a future that actually aligns with who we're becoming. Their life looked steady from the outside. They had a respectable role, a predictable routine, a clear trajectory. Everything suggested they were on the right path. Yet beneath the surface, a quiet dissonance had begun to grow. It wasn't dissatisfaction. It wasn't burnout. It was a subtle awareness that the shape of their career no longer matched the shape of their ambition. The crossroads appeared on a day that felt like any other. A simple question from a colleague, one that should have been easy to answer, suddenly revealed a truth they had avoided. The question was small, but its impact was immediate. It forced them to confront the possibility that their future wasn't unfolding the way they had imagined. They brushed it off at first, but the question kept returning, echoing in their mind long after the conversation ended. It nudged them to examine choices they had accepted without thought, responsibilities they had taken on without intention, and dreams they had slowly set aside. What they didn't realize was at this moment, this subtle, unexpected intersection, was the beginning of a turning point, a crossroads that would challenge their assumptions, unsettle their certainty, and ultimately reveal the path they were meant to follow. The question continued to echo through their thoughts, weaving itself into the quiet moments of their day. It appeared during routines that once felt effortless, highlighting a tension they had never named. The deeper they reflected, the clearer it became. The path they were on had been chosen long ago, but they had never stopped to confirm whether it still belonged to them. They began noticing subtle signs of misalignment. Tasks they once handled with enthusiasm now felt mechanical. Projects that used to energize them no longer sparked curiosity. Even praise, once a source of pride, landed with a muted thud. Nothing was wrong, yet something felt undeniably off, by a melody that no longer matched the rhythm of their life. Still, they hesitated to acknowledge it. After all, they were doing well. People relied on them. Their work mattered. To question any of it felt ungrateful, even irresponsible. But the crossroads lingered in their mind, a reminder that moving forward without clarity could lead them deeper into a life that no longer fit. The conflict sharpened when a new responsibility was added to their workload. It was meant to be a chance for growth, but instead it exposed a widening gap between what they were doing and who they were becoming. The role required commitment, yet their heart resisted. They felt themselves slipping into a version of their career that offered stability but stole possibility. This internal tension grew with each passing week. They found themselves imagining different futures, ones shaped not by expectation, but by curiosity. Futures where their strengths mattered. Futures where their work aligned with their evolving identity. These thoughts were quiet but persistent, pulling them toward a path that felt both unfamiliar and strangely right. The turning point came during a late afternoon meeting. As colleagues discussed plans and projections, they felt a sudden clarity. They were no longer choosing their path. They were simply maintaining it. And for the first time, that realization felt heavier than the fear of change. The crossroads stood fully visible before them now. One direction offered predictability. The other offered possibility. And the choice between them was becoming impossible to ignore. Seeing the crossroads so clearly stirred a deeper conflict, one that had been building quietly for years. They felt torn between loyalty to the life they had built and the growing pull toward a life they had not yet explored. Every part of them wanted certainty, yet certainty could only be found in the direction that no longer felt true. Their days became a reflection of this inner divide. They performed their work with the same diligence as always, yet each task reminded them of the distance between who they were and who they were becoming. Familiar routines felt heavier. Familiar conversations felt scripted. Even successes felt strangely hollow, as if they belonged to someone they used to be. The tension reached into their evenings. They found themselves lying awake, imagining different paths they had never allowed themselves to consider. They pictured roles that sparked curiosity, projects that demanded creativity, challenges that awakened skills they had pushed aside. These visions felt bold, alive, expansive, yet stepping toward them meant letting go of the comfort that had defined their world. Fear rose quickly to meet these thoughts. What if they made the wrong choice? What if the new path failed? What if they risked everything only to find themselves lost? The uncertainty tightened around them like a knot, pulling them back toward a predictable life they knew so well. But predictability no longer brought peace. It brought constraint. The emotional conflict peaked on a day that started like any other. They were reviewing plans when a wave of realization washed over them. Sharp, undeniable, impossible to ignore. They weren't afraid of the unknown. They were afraid of staying in a life that no longer felt like their own. That was the true weight pressing on their chest. That was the source of their restlessness. In that moment, they understood something essential. The crossroads was not about choosing between stability and risk. It was about choosing between stagnation and growth. The familiar path no longer offered evolution. The new one did, even if it came wrapped in uncertainty. The clarity didn't erase the fear, but it changed its shape. Instead of warning them to stay put, the fear revealed the importance of moving forward. And with that shift, the path ahead, still unclear, still daunting, began to feel like the only one that honored who they were becoming. They reached a moment when the choice could no longer be postponed. The crossroads they had tried to ignore had become a quiet ultimatum. Continue down a path that no longer reflected them, or step into a future shaped by intention rather than inertia. The realization settled in with surprising calm. Growth required movement, and movement required courage. So they chose the unfamiliar direction. The decision didn't come with fireworks or celebration. It came with a deep breath, a conversation, a single commitment that marked the beginning of a new chapter. The moment they said yes to change, the world around them seemed to expand. Possibilities that once felt distant now appeared within reach, not because they were easy, but because they finally aligned with the person they were becoming. The transition was challenging. The new path demanded skills they were still discovering, resilience they were still building, and confidence they were still learning to trust. But with each step, they felt more alive, more engaged, more connected to their work than they had in years. The uncertainty that once terrified them now felt like proof they were moving in the right direction. Opportunities emerged, unexpected, meaningful, transformative. They found themselves drawn into projects that challenged their thinking, collaborations that expanded their perspective, and moments that reminded them why growth is worth the discomfort requires. The path wasn't smooth, but it was theirs. In time, the crossroads became a story they looked back on with gratitude. It taught them that most people never recognize the moment when their life is asking them to change. They walked past it, choosing comfort over possibility, familiar over fulfilling. But when we see these turning points, when we honor them, we open doors to versions of ourselves we never knew existed. And in the end, they realized the greatest risk had never been choosing the wrong path. It had been the possibility of never choosing at all. Sometimes the smallest shift in perspective becomes the beginning of a new future.